Rain poured heavily outside the small roadside diner, and the neon sign flickered in the darkness. Inside, Lena Carter wiped down the last table, tired after another long shift. The diner was almost empty, and she was hoping to close early. Suddenly, the sound of screeching tires broke the quiet night. The diner door slammed open, and several men in dark suits rushed inside, carrying an unconscious man between them. Lena froze behind the counter. The men looked dangerous, their sharp eyes scanning the room. One of them ordered everyone else out and locked the door. The diner suddenly felt smaller and colder. They placed the unconscious man on a booth seat. Lena noticed his pale face and the blood on his shirt. He looked like he was barely breathing. One of the men grabbed Lena's arm and warned her to stay out of it. But she couldn't ignore what she saw. The man needed help, and every second mattered. Thinking quickly, Lena said she knew basic first aid. The men hesitated, clearly unsure whether to trust her. Her heart pounded as she leaned closer to the unconscious man. His breathing was faint, almost gone. Without wasting another moment, Lena pressed her lips to his and gave him mouth-to-mouth breathing, pretending it was just a desperate kiss to confuse the men watching. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly the man gasped for air. His eyes slowly opened, sharp and powerful despite his weakness. The room fell silent as he looked directly at Lena. Fear ran down her spine when she heard one of the men whisper his name. "Boss! Adrian Romano!" Lena tried to forget that terrifying night at the diner, convincing herself it was just a strange moment she would never experience again. For the next few days, life returned to normal. She worked long shifts, served coffee to tired travelers, and tried not to think about the dangerous men who had burst into the diner. But one quiet afternoon, everything changed. Black luxury cars slowly pulled up outside her small apartment building. The engines idled like silent warnings. Lena watched nervously from her window as several men in dark suits stepped out. Her heart dropped when she recognized one of them from the diner. A knock came at her door. Her hands trembled as she opened it slightly. The same tall man stood there, calm but intimidating. "The boss would like to see you," he said. Lena's stomach twisted with fear. She had no choice but to follow them. The car ride was silent and long, taking her far from the city center until massive iron gates opened to reveal an enormous mansion. Inside, everything was elegant and quiet, but the tension in the air was heavy. Then she saw him. Adrian Romano sat calmly in a large chair, looking far healthier than the night she met him. His sharp eyes studied her carefully. Lena felt small under his gaze, unsure if she was about to be thanked or punished. Finally, Adrian spoke in a calm voice. "You saved my life." He placed an envelope of money on the table and pushed it toward her. But Lena surprised everyone in the room when she shook her head and refused. For the first time, Adrian looked truly interested. Lena never imagined she would be living inside a mansion guarded by armed men. What was supposed to be a short visit had turned into something far more complicated. Adrian insisted she stay for her own safety after threats began appearing around her workplace. At first, Lena refused, but after someone vandalized the diner and left a warning message mentioning Adrian's name, she realized the danger was real. Life inside the mansion felt unreal. Everything was luxurious, yet heavily guarded. Cameras watched every hallway, and Adrian's men were always nearby. Lena felt like both a guest and a prisoner. Despite his cold reputation, Adrian treated her differently than everyone else. He never raised his voice around her, and often asked if she was comfortable. At first, Lena believed it was simply because she saved his life, but slowly she noticed something else. Adrian trusted almost no one, yet he spoke to her more openly than his own men. One evening, Lena accidentally overheard a tense meeting in Adrian's office. Powerful criminal groups were plotting against him. They believed he had become too influential and wanted to take control of the city's underground network. Lena suddenly realized the truth. Adrian wasn't just a powerful mafia boss. He was the center of a dangerous war she had unknowingly stepped into. Later that night, Adrian found her sitting alone on the mansion balcony. The city lights glowed in the distance. "You're not safe out there anymore," he said quietly. Lena looked at him, realizing her life had already changed the moment she kissed a stranger to save his life. Life in Adrian's mansion slowly became less frightening for Lena, but the danger surrounding him never disappeared. Guards constantly moved around the property, and every phone call Adrian received seemed to carry tension. Lena tried to stay out of his world, spending most of her time reading, helping in the kitchen, or walking in the large garden behind the mansion. But Adrian's enemies were watching. One evening, while Lena was returning from a short walk near the estate gate with one of the guards, a black van suddenly sped toward them. Before anyone could react, masked men jumped out. The guard tried to stop them, but he was quickly overpowered. Lena screamed as rough hands grabbed her and forced her into the van. The vehicle disappeared down the road before the mansion's security could react. When Adrian heard the news, the entire mansion fell into chaos. His calm expression vanished, replaced by a cold fury his men had rarely seen. Lena wasn't just a guest anymore, she had become a target because of him. Meanwhile, Lena was taken to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. Her captors believed she was Adrian's weakness. They tried to frighten her, telling her Adrian would never risk a war just to save a waitress. But Lena refused to show fear. Even with her hands tied, she looked straight at them and said Adrian would come. Back at the mansion, Adrian began a relentless search. Every ally, every informant, every hidden connection in the city was activated. For the first time, the entire underworld realized something terrifying. Adrian Romano was preparing for war. The abandoned warehouse was cold and silent, the air thick with dust and tension. Lena sat tied to a metal chair in the center of the room, her wrists aching against the ropes. The men guarding her watched closely, expecting fear or panic. But Lena refused to give them the satisfaction. She kept her head high, even though her heart pounded with uncertainty. One of the men laughed as he paced in front of her. He told her Adrian Romano ruled the city through fear, and that tonight his power would finally crumble. According to them, Adrian would walk straight into their trap to save her. Lena stayed quiet, but deep down she knew Adrian would come. The thought both comforted and terrified her. Across the city, Adrian was already moving. His network of informants had traced the kidnappers to the warehouse district. Cars filled with his men spread through the dark streets, blocking exits and surrounding the area. Adrian sat in the front seat of his car, his expression cold and focused. His closest advisor warned him it could be a trap, but Adrian didn't hesitate. Inside the warehouse, the captors suddenly heard engines outside. Panic flickered across their faces. Heavy footsteps approached the building, followed by the sound of doors crashing open. Adrian's men stormed inside, and chaos erupted. Gunshots echoed through the empty halls as Adrian pushed forward without fear. When he finally reached the center room, his eyes locked onto Lena. For a brief second, the noise of the battle faded. He cut the ropes binding her hands and quietly said, "I told you, no one touches what's under my protection." The gunfire slowly faded as Adrian's men secured the warehouse. The kidnappers who had once seemed so confident were now either captured or fleeing into the night. Dust drifted through the broken windows, and the cold air rushed inside the damaged building. Lena stood quietly beside Adrian, her hands still shaking slightly from everything that had happened. When he cut the ropes from her wrists, she rubbed them gently, trying to calm herself. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The chaos around them felt distant. Adrian looked at her carefully, as if making sure she was truly safe. His normally cold and controlled expression softened for a brief second. "Are you hurt?" he asked quietly. Lena shook her head. "No, thanks to you." But she could see something different in his eyes. The rescue had not been just another mission for him. Adrian Romano had risked everything tonight. His men had noticed it too. A powerful Mafia boss was not supposed to show weakness, yet he had launched a full assault just to save one person. Outside, the flashing lights of distant police sirens began echoing through the streets. Adrian's men quickly prepared to leave before authorities arrived. This world still belonged to shadows and secrecy. As they walked toward the car, Lena suddenly stopped. Adrian turned, confused, but before he could say anything, she stepped closer and kissed him. For a moment, Adrian froze in surprise. It wasn't a desperate kiss like the one in the diner. This time it was calm, real, and filled with unspoken emotion. And in that moment, Adrian realized something dangerous. The waitress who once saved his life had now completely changed it.